Before the body was cold, a man dressed as a god pressed burning metal into the flesh, not out of cruelty, out of procedure. If the muscle flinched, a second figure stepped forward with a mallet. Then came the dragging. Through a gate named for death into a dim corridor, everything stripped and catalogued. That was checkout at the Roman Colosseum. And somehow, it was not the worst part of the day. Emperor Vespasian began construction around 70 AD, funded entirely by treasure looted from the sack of Jerusalem. Between 60,000 and 100,000 enslaved workers spent a decade hauling 3.5 million cubic feet of stone. What rose was a structure 157 feet tall, roughly the height of a 15-story building, covering 6 acres. 80 numbered gates funneled up to 80,000 spectators inside with efficiency that modern stadium engineers still study. Social rank determined where you sat. Senators at the bottom, women banished to wooden benches at the very top. The emperor arrived through a private tunnel. Even the man who ordered the killing avoided the crowd that watched it. Most gladiators did not choose the arena. Slaves, prisoners of war, and condemned criminals, they were acquired. A trainer called a lanista purchased them, owned them, and managed their careers. You were property, not a person. The moment they signed on, they became infamies, legally disgraced, stripped of most rights, treated as something less. One volunteer named Marcus Attilius entered to pay off debts. His first opponent had 13 consecutive wins. His second opponent had 12. Attilius beat both and walked out a legend. For every Attilius, hundreds walked out on a cart. The diet was barley, beans, and ash. The goal was not muscle. The goal was subcutaneous fat as armor. A fat cushion meant shallow wounds would produce a spectacular spray of blood without severing anything that killed you. Physician Galen spent years treating gladiators. Under his predecessor, 60 died. Under Galen, only 5. Simply by paying attention. Gladiators were investments. The school understood this. Dead fighters generated no revenue. You were kept alive to be killed properly. Training weapons were twice the weight of real ones. If you could move under that load, real steel felt almost light. The purpose of thousands of hours of drilling was not to make you strong, it was to make panic impossible. A gladiator who froze died. One who moved with trained calm under 80,000 screaming people had a chance. There were over 24 gladiator classes. Every pairing was deliberate. The imbalance between them was the entire point. The retiarius carried a trident and weighted net. He wore almost nothing. No helmet, no armor. Speed was everything. Against him stood the secutor, sealed in heavy armor, smooth helmet, 2 tiny eye holes designed to prevent the net catching. The trade-off was ventilation. The helmet restricted airflow so severely that every second of fighting pushed him toward collapse. Romans framed this as a clash of fire and sea. They watched men suffocate inside their own armor and called it mythology. The retiarius had the highest win rate of all classes. Romans mocked him for it. He dodged instead of standing firm. That tells you most of what you need to know about Roman values. Winning the wrong way was its own disgrace. The evening before the games, fighters were given a proper banquet, good food, decent wine. Time to say goodbye. The men seated beside you might not survive tomorrow afternoon. You did not know which ones. Neither did they. Morning belonged to the animals. Beneath the arena, 80 freight elevators hauled half-ton cages up through the sand. Lions from North Africa, bears from Scotland, tigers from Persia, rhinoceroses from India, all of them here to die. Condemned criminals were released into this. Some, armed with nothing, expected to die. The crowd treated it as a warm-up. High above, 1,000 sailors spent days rigging the velarium, a canvas awning so the crowd would not suffer the sun. The procession entered first. Trumpeters, priests, images of gods carried on litters. Even the divine required a good seat. Behind the procession walked a man carrying the palm branch, the prize awarded to whoever walked out alive. Then you walked through the gate of triumph and stepped onto the sand. Every eye in the building found you. The gladiator's oath, to be burned, to be bound, to be beaten, and to be killed by the sword. You signed with your body. A 10% chance of dying in any given fight. Lose the bout, and those odds jumped to 25%. Researcher George Ville calculated average age at death, 27. Most died after 5 to 34 bouts in the arena. If you lost and still breathed, you raised your right index finger. The crowd then decided whether you lived or died. The thumbs up was the Roman signal for execution. The hostile thumb, mimicking a blade being driven downward. Not every fight ended in death. Over time, the kill rate declined. Dead gladiators were expensive. Poor investment. Bad economics. Emperor Augustus banned fights where no quarter was given. When Caligula killed fan favorites, his approval ratings suffered. The Syrian gladiator Flamma fought 34 times, won 21, drew 9, lost 4. Offered freedom 4 times, refused every time. Flamma's gravestone records that he died at 30, still fighting. He turned down freedom 4 times and chose the arena. Spiculus became so famous, Nero gave him a palace, an enslaved man living in a lifestyle that rivaled the aristocracy. When Nero's reign collapsed, he sent for Spiculus to execute him. Spiculus never came. Nero killed himself instead. The Roman public then used Nero's toppled statues to crush Spiculus to death in the streets. Fame was its own cage. The most celebrated bout pitted Priscus and Verus against each other. They fought for hours. Neither could break the other. Then both men conceded to each other simultaneously. Emperor Titus awarded each the wooden sword of freedom. They walked out together. That story sounds like it belongs in a film. The rest of what happened in that arena belongs in a coroner's report. The Ephesus cemetery held 68 gladiators. 11 had survived previous skull fractures and returned to fight again anyway. 3 skulls punctured by trident. 10 caved in by blunt objects, the mercy blows delivered after the fight was already decided. In York, a skeleton showed combat injuries, spine damage, and bite marks on the pelvis consistent with the jaws of a large cat. His severed head had been placed back on his shoulders after death. Someone gave him a different farewell. Nobody knows why. Even after death, Rome was not finished with you. Gladiator blood was collected and sold as an aphrodisiac at market. On her wedding night, a Roman bride might have her hair parted with a sword dipped in a dead fighter's blood. For luck. Fighters scraped sweat and oil from their skin with a curved blade. That mixture was bottled and sold as a beauty product. Your sweat was a beauty product. Your blood was a wedding accessory. Alive or dead, your body belonged entirely to Rome. Gladiatorial combat lasted more than 650 years, from 264 BC to the final games on January 1st, 404 AD. Modern estimates place the total gladiators killed across all Roman arenas at roughly 400,000. 1 million animals alongside them. Whole species vanished from North Africa and Scotland as a direct result of the games. They industrialized extinction. The end came because of a monk. Telemachus walked into the arena during the January games and tried to stop the fighters. The crowd, furious at the interruption of their entertainment, stoned him to death on the spot. He died on the sand. Emperor Honorius declared Telemachus a martyr and banned the gladiatorial games permanently. It ended with a death to stop the dying. It took a man being murdered by spectators for trying to prevent murder to convince Rome that maybe the murdering should stop. You woke in shackles, ate barley, drank bone ash, trained with weapons twice the weight of the ones you would actually use. The night before your fight, you sat at a banquet that everyone present understood might be your last meal. Morning came. From beneath the arena, you listened as lions and condemned men died on the sand directly above you. 1,000 sailors rigged shade above the crowd, because even the people watching you die deserved protection from the afternoon sun. You walked into an arena holding more people than most modern concert venues. Every single one of them was screaming. You faced a weapon specifically designed to find the gaps in your armor. Someone had spent years perfecting it against people like you. If you won, a palm branch. Back to the school, same routine, same food, same shackles. Same thing again in a few months. If you lost but fought well, you raised one finger and prayed the crowd liked you enough to let you live. If the crowd stayed silent, a man dressed as Mercury pressed hot iron into your flesh to see if you still moved. And a man dressed as Charon finished what the arena had started. That was how checkout worked at the Roman Colosseum. The Colosseum earns $60 million annually, 7 million tourists a year, the highest earning tourist attraction in all of Italy. Tourists buy refrigerator magnets of the building where those men were butchered. Not one of them thinks about the oath. The Colosseum was never a monument. It was a machine for turning human bodies into public spectacle. It ran for 3 centuries, without anyone in Rome seriously asking whether it should be turned off. For 300 years, no one asked. You would not have lasted 24 hours inside it. And the truly unsettling part is this. 50,000 Romans would have watched you fail, and they would have called it a good afternoon.
Indifferent.